Risk and Reward starts now.
A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people. Because they have no sources, they just make them up when there are none. They're very dishonest people. In fact, in covering my comments, the dishonest media did not explain that I called the fake news the enemy of the people, the fake news. They dropped off the word fake. I'm not against the media. I'm not against the press. I don't mind bad stories if I deserve them. I'm against the people that make up stories and make up sources. They shouldn't be allowed to use sources unless they use somebody's name. Let their name be put out there.
President Trump doubling down on his attacks on what he calls the fake news media, again calling fake news the enemy of the people. One day after his chief strategist, Steve Bannon, called the press the opposition party. Well, welcome to Risk and Reward. I'm Elizabeth MacDonald in for Deirdre Bolton. The president kicking off a wide-ranging address at CPAC earlier today by blasting the, quote, dishonest media, even accusing some reporters of making up sources, saying it's time they start naming the people who are attacking him in their stories. This comes just one day after President Trump's chief strategist, Steve Bannon, criticized the media at CPAC.
Just like they were dead wrong on the chaos of the campaign, and just like they were dead wrong in the chaos of the transition, they are absolutely dead wrong about what's going on today, because we have a team that's just grinding it through on what President Donald Trump promised the American people. And the mainstream media better understand something. All of those promises are going to be implemented.
And now we have this breaking news. After calling fake news the enemy, the White House now under fire for not inviting CNN, the New York Times, and other media to a press gaggle today with Press Secretary Sean Spicer. Other outlets like CBS, NBC, and ABC were invited and attended. The Associated Press and Time Magazine invited but declined. Our own Blake Berman joins me with the details. Were you invited, Blake?
We were not. We were one of the many, Liz, that were not invited. Myself, along with our colleagues over there at CNBC and many other outlets. You just ran through them, CNN, the New York Times, among them. Let me first start off, though, by saying that Fox has joined the objection of the White House Correspondents Association and the 5 network pool for for what exactly happened here at the White House earlier today. Let me take a step back to try to walk you through the timeline of what exactly happened here. Last night, there was a notice that was put out that there would be a press briefing on camera like we've seen here day after day at the White House with the White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. At about noon today, that was changed to an off-camera session inside of his office. An hour and a half after that, as that was supposed to take place, members of the media lined up to go back to this on-camera press briefing, and that is when some of us were told, you can't go. Others were told, you are in because you are either a part of the pool, which is the TV, radio, and print folks who are designated media members each day to kind of report back what is happening, and there was also a list that was allowed along with the pool. So you've got the pool, you've got this expanded list that was allowed in. Other media members that were told, including myself, you were not allowed in. I asked the White House person within the press office, what exactly is your response to this? Why was this the case? And they say, look, gaggles are normal situations here at the White House. They contend that there will be more of these going forward. And they say because the president spoke earlier this morning on this day, that is why they decided to dial things back a bit and have this not on camera session with the White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer in his office. So the bottom line, some media members allowed in, some media members not allowed in, and now you've got pretty much all of the media objecting to what happened here today.
Blake, any information on who made that decision, who made that call, Blake?
Which call?
Who made the decision not to invite certain media?
So as far as we know, the pool was automatic. If you were a part of the pool, that is randomly rotating, set aside for a full month in advance. Pool, you were in. As for everybody else who was on that added list, I don't know how they decided who was in. All I can tell you from my personal experience is that when I walked up to the front, Liz, I was told, did you get the email 10 minutes ago? If you didn't get the email, you're not in. I went through my phone, no email.
All right. Blake Berman, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thanks.
With more on President Trump's attack on fake news, let's bring in former President George W. Bush's spokesperson, who introduced the president today at CPAC. It's Mercedes Schlapp here. Mercedes, the president says fake news is the enemy of the people, not the media. He said that it's not the press. He says the media always drops the fake and misquotes them. But then the president goes after an entire network, right? So which is it? Is it the fake news itself or the networks?
Well, you know, I think there is obviously the big situation with the fake news is the fact that information comes out that is not necessarily accurate. Some of these networks run with this information, sometimes not verified. And I think it becomes, it seems to be a reoccurring theme in some of these networks. Now, it doesn't mean, obviously, you know, there are plenty of very good reporters. And I think that he's decided he's going to pick a fight. President Trump's going to pick a fight with CNN and several of the other outlets. I think what you're learning in all of this, Liz, is the fact that social media has impacted how traditional journalism functions, right? So we're seeing the hierarchy of traditional journalism completely being disrupted because of the fact that individuals, Americans, can go to different places to find their news because of the fact that we've seen such, for example, a spread of, let's say, new conservative websites. Yeah. And you also see that on the left as well. So I think that that's where the bigger, where you're seeing this change. There's obviously this new almost media order. I know we talk about the new political order, but there's also a new media order as well.
Yeah, that's true. You know, but critics are saying that, you know, by the White House discrediting the media now and going so hard after the media, now, you know, maybe more people won't believe what the media may uncover down the road about the administration. He's trying to squash the free press. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know, that's interesting. I think that what you have found is even before, I mean, months ago, you would look at Gallup polls, and they would basically say that only maybe about, you know, 30 some odd percent of Americans trusted the media. So this was, I think, a problem that started happening. I think what has happened is that President Trump is highlighting the problem. You know, I think that what is happening, you know, he spoke about the First Amendment today in his speech, and it was an interesting take on it because he's saying, look, I'm free to criticize the press. Now, you know, I think that if there would be a problem where you see censorship or...
Yeah, Mercedes, he's effectively saying, I'm the beneficiary of the free press, right? I say things all the time, right?
Well, what he's saying is that he has the right to criticize the press and call them out. I think that there is a sense from some of these more mainstream liberal media outlets where that he feels, and I think his administration feels, that they've been unfairly attacked, and that there is a sense and a move to try to delegitimize his presidency. That becomes a big issue for them. And I think that, you know, he's been obviously one of the most vocal critics we've seen on the press, on what we would say the fake news. And I think, you know, the American people are smart enough, Liz. They have to decide where they want to get their news. They're going to decide whether they can decipher between fake news and real news. Yeah, and I think that, you know, it's an interesting challenge because what you're finding is that the media is trying to analyze inside and out what President Trump's move is going to be.
Yeah. You know, the president also said that reporters should stop quoting anonymous sources and name names. But we know that a lot of stories have been broken that way. Watergate, for example, and even Vice President Mike Pence, you know this, when he was an Indiana representative, he said we should protect journalists and their anonymous sources. So how do we square the two right now, Mercedes?
Oh, they're going to have to figure that one out in the White House. But I think that obviously what we do know about journalism is that they depend on their sources. I mean, that is what journalists do to get the information they need. And I think that for the administration, they're going to have to continue to make their point, to be able to say their opinion and make sure that their opinion is included in this. They're not going to be able to control every leak. They're not going to be able to control every source. It's just not the way it is. Journalists have a right to have to go to their sources and get their information. The problem is that there's so much that's coming in from the federal bureaucracy. Those individuals that, you know, they call it in some cases, quote unquote, the deep state, which are leaking this sensitive information, in some cases classified information. They're basically, offering some nuggets, but not necessarily providing a full transcript. It becomes a messy situation. It becomes a challenging situation for the administration. And at the end, it feels that some in the federal bureaucracy are also trying to undermine the presidency. That becomes an issue for President Trump and his team.
Mercedes, you're making some good points here. And, President Trump made an interesting statement. He said women are really running the show in the Republican Party. Let's take a listen.
First of all, I want to thank Matt Schlapp and his very, very incredible wife and boss, Mercedes.
So, Mercedes, you're the boss.
No, Matt and I are partners in ensuring that we can talk about and explain the conservative principles to these wonderful grassroots activists. They bring such great energy to this conference every year. I mean, it's thousands of activists who come from across the country. We talk about these issues of our time, and it ranges from repealing Obamacare to national security to border security. Yeah. And I have to tell you, one thing I know is that there was a moment where there was a sense of the conservative movement being fractured. Today, when Donald Trump came into this room, there was a sense of unity. There's a sense that we need to move forward, govern, and make sure that there is success coming out of this presidency and ensuring that the conservatives stick together so that this agenda can be implemented.
Mercedes, you're quite the diplomat, too. Thanks for coming on the show. Really terrific. See you next time.
Thank you.
Sure. President Trump getting big cheers at CPAC today while discussing the deportation of criminal illegals.
As we speak today, immigration officers are finding the gang members, the drug dealers, and the criminal aliens and throwing them the hell out of our country.
The media is saying the White House, also Democrats saying this, that the White House is planning a mass deportation for all illegal immigrants, all 11 million. Take a listen.
Immigration raids, some communities on edge after a string of deportation raids in at least 6 states. More than 16 million people in this country live in a household with at least one undocumented immigrant.
Families of undocumented immigrants say they are now living in fear.
In Texas, video on social media showing a man being detained by an ICE agent in front of a fast food restaurant sends a chilling message.
We're following breaking news, an enforcement surge in undocumented immigrant arrests, targeted raids, rounding up hundreds of foreign nationals.
Joining me now is my political power panel, Washington Times contributor Eric Schiffer and conservative radio host Tammy Bruce. Eric, President Trump says it's about illegal criminals like gang members. But, conservative media like the Wall Street Journal says what's happening is it's so sweeping it could capture, law-abiding illegals like maids or meat packers, capturing them, taking them in on misdemeanors like expired visas. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that'll probably happen, but why is that bad? I mean, to the extent that they're here illegally, I don't see an issue. I mean, if they're breaking the law, they're breaking the law. I think that they probably, though, are focused largely on criminals. This hasn't even begun. I mean, it's really early, Liz, and it'll be interesting to see the impact and see how effective they are. I think it's great that we're protecting our borders and they're focusing on hardened criminals first.
Yeah, it's a good point. Again, the order says any undocumented immigrant who has committed even a misdemeanor could be subject to arrest or detention. But, Tammy, here's another issue that's coming up. The president is enforcing the laws that Congress wrote, right? And we have that rare appearance with Steve Bannon. He's saying that President Trump is just following through on his agenda. What do you think?
Yeah, look, President Obama had arrested at the same period of time last year over 1,000 illegal aliens, many of which was a mix of people who had committed crimes, some maybe just misdemeanors. But when we talk about just misdemeanors, again, these are individuals who are here who shouldn't be here in the first place. And if any one of us was, arrested on just a misdemeanor, it would pretty much kind of ruin our lives and our family would look at us funny. It's not something any of us want. And it really is a resurgence of the issue of law and order and the rule of law. This is what Americans also have requested. It also sends a message, I think, to every single community that the law as it sits now and as that has been written is something we're going to begin enforcing again, and that's fair and better, frankly, for everyone.
Can we just stay on this point for a second? Because Tammy makes an interesting point here, Eric, and as quickly, because we want to move on to the next topic, that we've lived for 8 years with this sort of waiving the law, prosecutorial discretion, not enforce the law, Obamacare waivers, let the illegal immigrants come in, maybe release drug offenders. So, I mean, I think what Tammy's saying, if I'm not mistaken, is we're going back to the normal way things were, right?
She is, and I think that's a good thing, and I think that we should be protecting our borders. We should be enforcing the law. I agree that, for some, they say misdemeanor is nothing. And look, you can get a misdemeanor for fishing in the wrong place. But I don't think that's the issue. I think the fact is, if they're here illegally, they shouldn't be here.
Yeah. Okay. We've got this breaking news we want to get to. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin discussing a new tax that involves trade deals. He's calling it a reciprocal tax. It's the first time he's brought it up in an exclusive interview with our very own Maria Bartiromo. Now, remember, 100 countries do put a tax on our exports. Let's take a listen to what the Treasury Secretary told Maria.
An idea that he's looking at calling a reciprocal tax, which is basically saying we want to create a level playing field so that other countries treat us the way we're treating them. We're not going to get into trade wars, but what we are going to do is the president believes in free trade, but he believes in fair trade. And we're going to renegotiate these deals so they're good for the American public, they're good for the American worker, and they're good for American companies. And all we're looking for are fair deals, where the deals work for us and they work for the other parties. And that's what we're going to do.
Tammy, what's interesting is when people talk about this, they say, oh, this will ignite a calamitous trade war. What do you think?
Well, I don't think so at all. This is really the beginning of a negotiation, right? Other countries also know they've been getting a really good deal, and they've probably been waiting for someone to notice. Well, it's been noticed. So instead of also the concern that these kinds of taxes would then be passed on to the consumer, the goal is, in fact, for it all to go down, for the taxes that are being charged overall to be beneficial for every country involved, every company involved as well. Yeah. So as opposed to it being a war and angry, just like at NATO, when we were over there in Europe and the G20, it was with NATO, it's like, okay, what can we do to help you? There wasn't a real big fight, and I think we're going to find the same kind of acquiescence when this kind of a situation gets negotiated as well.
What a time to be covering this. It's really unbelievable. Moving parts, all this breaking news all of the time. It really is the action presidency happening right before us. Tammy, Eric, you're going to be back later in the hour. Thanks so much. And make sure to catch the rest of Maria Bartiromo's interview with the Treasury Secretary on Sunday Morning Futures this Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Next up, we've uncovered who's really behind the local protests during Secretary of State Tillerson's visit to Mexico. You're going to be really surprised who it is, or maybe you won't be. We've got that story for you next. Don't go away.
Trump's address to Congress. We're live from D.C. Tuesday. Neil has a must-see preview to the president's address. Then stay with Trish for Critical Insight Tuesday.
Secretary Kelly in Mexico today with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, a diplomatic mission. Ahead of their visit, a replica of the president's proposed border wall burned in Veracruz.
Trump administration tries to defuse a standoff with Mexico. Demonstrators there torching a fake wall overnight, highlighting real tensions.
Lots of local protests in Mexico disrupting Secretary of State Rex Tillerson's visit there. But it was actually a group of Americans living in Mexico that arranged it. It's a wing of the Democrat Party. It's the Mexican chapter of Democrats Abroad. Again, an official arm of the Democrat Party. With me now, Daily Caller News Foundation editor Katie Freitas. Katie, good to have you on the show. Is it okay that one of our major political parties is protesting an American leader in another country? Is it okay for one of our political parties to do that?
Well, you can't really be surprised. Grassroots mobilization is one of the things Democrats are really, really good at it. And whether it's in the U.S. or whether it's in Canada or whether it's in Mexico, they know how to bust people out. They know how to get people to polling stations, to the Women's March. This is what they do. They're so good at it, and Republicans have to keep their eye on that. So I'm not actually very surprised at all.
You know what's interesting, Katie? Back in 2006, I want to talk to you about the border wall. We had more than 24 Democrats, 26 Democrats to be exact. They voted for a border fence back in 2006 between the U.S. and Mexico. Look at that. It included then Senator Barack Obama, also Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer. So why so much opposition now?
Right. Well, you know, it's all rhetoric, it's all policy, it's all what's going to keep you in Congress. Of course, you don't want to get your constituents so upset that you turn into Eric Cantor and lose your seat in the surprise election. And one of the things is they did, as senators, John Kerry, as you said, and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, they did vote for it then. And then once they took over the Senate, they did gut it in a later move. But one of the important things is they laid the foundation for Trump to be able to come in as president and build that wall. And, you know, now they say that they're so against it, and it's so wrong. But Obama deported millions and millions and millions of people, and that rhetoric does not really match his speech. He's very dreamers, he's very immigrants, he's very everyone come to America, we're one big family. And no one decided to pay attention to that because they just believed that he was the big immigrant president.
You know, Katie, to that point, let's switch gears. Democrats have been arguing that the president is setting the stage for mass deportations of illegals, that President Trump is doing that, you know, expanding the pool that could be deported from just serious criminals to any illegal convicted of lesser offenses. Let's take a listen.
President Trump is doing is saying that he is now going to hire an army of 10,000 agents inside of the United States. That is fundamentally different than Barack Obama.
There are ways in which this can go badly wrong, and it's not clear that they have the safeguards up to protect against those things going badly wrong.
It's a significant change. It's an unleash the hounds type of executive order.
All right, Katie, to your point, what's missing here in these discussions is what was done under President Obama. And there's a good reason it was called the deporter-in-chief. Over 3 million illegals deported under President Obama, more than any other president in history. And that 3 million doesn't even fully include Obama's final year in office. That data not yet available, Katie.
Right, and of course it is important to note that this immigration executive order signed by Trump was hastily done, and there should be concern. I mean, when something's done that quickly, things can go wrong. And it's important to go over something carefully and make sure that any corrections that need to be made are made. But at the same time, he wants the rapists, the murderers, the drug dealers, the drug smugglers, he wants them out because they are killing Americans. Americans need to be put first. And honestly, Obama followed that policy too. It's just no one decided to pay attention to it, as I said, because of his rhetoric. Trump's rhetoric matches his actions, and the media and Democrats think he's a bigot. They're losing their minds. Their hair is on fire over this, even though really the deportations aren't that different. I think Trump will probably be more severe, but it's going to be along the same lines of people that he doesn't want in this country.
Katie Freitas, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
Next up, the president blasting the FBI over yet another leak today during his speech at CPAC. Look who's coming up. Former FBI Assistant Director Jim Kallstrom. He can explain what's really going on, and he joins us next. Don't go away.
All eyes on President Trump as he takes the stage to talk policies, politics, and moving America forward together. No one has smarter coverage and analysis than Neil. Tuesday, watch the presidential address to Congress on a special Cavuto Coast to Coast at 8.
I saw one story recently where they said 9 people have confirmed. There are no 9 people. I don't believe there was 1 or 2 people. 9 people. And I said, give me a break, because I know the people. I know who they talk to. There were no 9 people, but they say 9 people. And somebody reads it and they think, oh, 9 people, they have 9 sources. They make up sources.
President Trump accusing the FBI of failing to crack down on leakers and going after publications like the Washington Post for using anonymous sources. He's basically saying this is all part of the fake news media. And it's about reports on his team's contacts with Russia. The president also tweeting out earlier, quote, the FBI is totally unable to stop the national security leakers that have permeated our government for a long time. They can't even find the leakers within the FBI itself. Classified information is being given to media that could have a devastating effect on the U.S. Find now. Joining me now, former FBI Assistant Director Jim Kallstrom. Jim, good to have you, sir. Could leaks have a devastating effect on the country?
Oh, I think without question. I mean, that's why things are classified. And, you know, as far as, you know, government intercepts or overhears or court-ordered wiretaps or any of that mix of things, you know, people, there's two things, Liz, in the world. There's people that have clearances. Everyone in the FBI and has a top secret clearance. But that does not mean that they have a need to know, that they don't necessarily have to know about everything that's going on. And very, very sensitive programs you're read into. And I think we do a lousy job, I'm based when I was in, of actually keeping track of who we actually brief into some of these programs. The very, very top secret ones, there's actually written documents about who has clearance and when they actually see a document, et cetera, et cetera. But I think most of the leaks the president's talking about, you know, came in the prior administration. And I'm guessing that the FBI director probably took some of that information and through normal practices disseminated it to probably the Attorney General and probably the National Security Council. And I bet my 30 years, 40 years of knowledge in this business, that's where that came from.
What information are we talking about? You're saying the FBI Director Comey could have disseminated what information?
Well, I'm talking back about this situation with General Flynn and the Russian ambassador. I'm talking about that particular piece of information, you know, and how that just plays into this whole narrative, in my view, about how, you know, Russia has basically done this and done that and done that. There's no question Russia's done a lot of bad things, but you know, that's the sort of the pressure release of the Democratic Party to blame it all on Russia. But there's a lot of other things. I mean, soon after the president met with the president of Mexico, there were transcripts of conversations. There were transcripts of telephone conversations he had. You know, why the White House is releasing this to a myriad of people? There's certain people that need to know these things. There's no question.
Yeah.
But they have to do a very, very tough job of cleaning up who sees all this stuff.
Jim, do you think that the Trump administration or anybody connected to the Trump team colluded with Russia in order to bring down Hillary Clinton?
No, I don't believe that. I mean, here you have John Podesta, whose password was password, you know, and all those documents, you know, that show really how they operate. And quite frankly, they're continuing to operate today. They were giving out Russian flags at CPAC, the same guy that was paying people to disrupt Trump rallies. You know, I think that is terribly overblown. Do I know for a fact? No. My opinion, I think that's terribly overblown, Liz.
All right, Jim Kallstrom, thank you so much for your time, sir.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it. Next up, President Trump today saying that the city of Chicago is in desperate need of help after 7 people were fatally shot in just one day. The city's murder rate still at highs not seen in 2 decades. Coming up, Chicago resident Brunel Donald-Che. She's here. She says her hometown of Chicago is too busy focusing on the wrong things and not protecting citizens. Up next, don't go away.
I'm also working with the Department of Justice to begin reducing violent crime. I mean, can you believe what's happening in Chicago, as an example? 2 days ago, 7 people were shot. We will support the incredible men and women of law enforcement.
President Trump today saying Chicago is in desperate need of help after 7 people were fatally shot in just one day. It's making it the city's deadliest day of the year so far. The victims included a young woman 9 months pregnant and a man in his 60s. Already, Chicago's murder rate is keeping pace with last year. 762 homicides in 2016. That was the most violent in Chicago in 2 decades. And a big 57% rise from the year prior. And so far this year, the city has had 91 murders recorded in just the first 8 weeks. With me now, the former Vice Chair of Diversity Outreach at the National Diversity Coalition for President Trump, Chicago resident Brunel Donald-Che. Brunel, it was reported that 5 of the 7 homicides occurred within just a 2-hour period. I mean, the South Side of Chicago, effectively a no-go zone. What's going on here? Brunel, can Brunel hear me? Oh, it looks like we're having technical difficulties. Let's work on this for a second. We're going to go right to break. We're going to bring Brunel on right after the break. Let's get right back to Brunel Donald Shea, where we're talking about what's going on in Chicago. 5 of the 7 homicides within a 2-hour period. What's going wrong here in Chicago, Brunel?
You know, the situation is being ignored. The people are crying out on the bottom. People are being killed. They're asking for help. You've got low morale in the police department, afraid to fully investigate and do arrests. You've got people who are not working, who have no means of supporting themselves, that are fighting over gang territory, and innocent people are being shot. I have a very good friend of mine who lost her 14-year-old son here in Chicago. Another friend of mine who lost her nephew. I lost 2 former clients. The killing in Chicago is real, and it is serious, and we need help.
You know, Brunel, I'm so sorry for your loss. You know, but the Chicago City Council, the Black Caucus, says, you know what, it's the cops that are the problem. And the Mayor Rahm Emanuel is now, the people in his administration saying that the Trump administration is not doing enough to help. Remember, Donald Trump had tweeted out saying, yes, we will help you, we'll send in the feds. But they're now saying the Trump administration is not doing enough to help. They're blaming, you know, cops for being miscreants. That's a City Council Black Caucus. And they're blaming Trump right now.
Well, you know, they have to blame somebody. I mean, they didn't blame our former president when all this massacre and killing was going on. Donald Trump has only been in office 30 days, basically, a little over 30 days. And so he's not to blame. What's to blame is there are no jobs. What's to blame is there's no investment in communities. What's to blame is people aren't getting a great education and they're dropping out and things like that. That's what the problem is. No economic investment. Sure, you need police in certain areas, you need more help, but people want to work, and I guarantee you, Miss Liz, if the jobs come, the violence will go down. I will sing that song until somebody listens. We need those jobs that our president, Donald J. Trump, has promised. Jobs, economic opportunities, vocational programs. That's what the city of Chicago needs, and better police. You know, some of our police are not trained properly, and they're not doing the right things. Some of them, but not most.
Brunel, I hear what you're saying. Since you're there, and a lot of people have been in Chicago. What is the cultural? You talk about the lack of jobs and economic growth as being behind it. The cultural setting of Chicago, is it anti-crime or is it anti-cop?
Let me tell you something. The people of Chicago are not anti-cop. They are anti-crime. There are people who want to see more patrolling, of course, in their neighborhoods where it's crime-ridden. But it's also a fact, like I said, it's economics. The people of Chicago are anti-crime, not anti-police.
All right, Brunel, God bless you.
God bless you, and God bless America.
Okay, thank you, Brunel Donald Shea. Next up, some media outlets have been touting liberal town hall protests breaking out across the country. We have author Paul Sperry. He says, wait a second, these protests are not spontaneous. There's an actual manual on how to basically set up these protests.
I've got a copy of it, and they actually have a whole section in here on how to target these town halls and ambush Republicans who go back to and hold these town hall meetings. It says, get seated and spread out. Head into the venue a bit early to grab seats at the front of the room, but do not all sit together. Sit by yourself or in groups of 2 and spread out throughout the room. This will help reinforce the impression of broad consensus.
Let's take this to the political power panel. Eric Schiffer and Tammy Bruce. Tammy, it seems that, you know, the protesters' goals are to basically sabotage the GOP and what they're doing and the Trump presidency. I mean, but it looks like these are locals. They're not outsiders coming in, right?
Well, yes, but as a former community organizer for the left, this is exactly what I would do, is that you get people who are on your list already, who are activists, who normally would never be going to a town hall, let alone for a Republican, and have them activate in this way. Look, there's a lot of frustrated people out there because the Democrats have failed, and they've got to try to keep these people involved. But when you think about this, it's a group called Indivisible, started by a congressional Democrat staffer. On the board includes this man's wife, Leah Greenberg, who is a Soros Justice Fellow, worked for a group called Humanity United, which was funded by George Soros' Open Society Foundation. The secretary of the Indivisible guide that Mr. Sperry was speaking about is from the National Immigration Law Center, also also funded by George Soros, and the treasurer is with the SEIU. So this is not organic. This is what I would do. It's the groups that I would rely on. This is classic for the left when they have no way to really present on the details of the issues, but they want to distract, want to make you feel powerful. And if they think this is they still don't understand Tea Party. It's funny, after all these years, a genuinely organic movement that eventually was co-opted.
You're saying the Tea Party was
genuine. The Tea Party was genuinely organic, eventually co-opted. This is it's like Occupy or Acorn. Not organic, contrived, and they think that this is going to make the difference, but they're mistaken.
What do you think, Eric?
Look, I think Tammy makes some good points. I do think, however, that there are some extremely angry people out there, and I think that to the extent that Donald Trump doesn't also listen to some of the points that I think also relate to Republican concerns that we know are in the field, it's a mistake. Now, are they organizing? Are some of these absolutely done in a professional way? Yeah, but there's also some real anger. And some of it will affect Trump if he doesn't pay attention.
Well, remember, this is about Obamacare.
I don't think you should dismiss it all.
Yeah, no, but remember, this is about Obamacare, and unless people were losing everything over the last 5 years, they lost their hospitals, policies, including Democrats. We didn't see these people upset then, these Democrats, about when we were actually losing our
Well, there's
policies.
also Bernie Sanders followers, right, taking over Nebraska and Hawaii, and they want single payer, Eric, which is even further left of Obamacare, to Tammy's point. But, you know, Eric,
I think that I hear you, and of course it's about Obamacare, but I think that, you know, there's some issues here that are really being left undefined, and I think to the extent that they're undefined, that's an issue.
All right, okay,
and
stay
there's
on
just
that.
too much that's not tied down.
All right, stay on that for a second, because the Trump economic agenda would help, I think, and what analysts on Wall Street and economists are saying, that if you get economic growth, it could help allay some of the concerns of these people at these meetings. But it looks like the Democrat play is to block all that, to stop all that, so the media headlines could come out that the Trump administration failed, and then you put the Democrats back in the midterms, right, Eric?
Well, you're right on the economy. There's no question that that's going to make a difference. And yes, the Democrats, it appears, are starting an agenda with respect to delay and hold things off. But on the economy, on economic issues, they know they can't do that too much because people are watching. They have to get back the people they lost on economic issues. Okay. But I really think on the Obamacare thing, that there's just a lot that's ambiguous, that's left out in the air. That creates anxiety. Okay. Anxiety is driving some of this.
All right, Eric and Tammy, thank you so much for your time. We always talk about how college kids need safe spaces. We've covered that story for you, that they need safe spaces from reality to do things like play with Play-Doh on college campuses. But our next story shows how one mother of a college freshman gave her own son a dose of reality, a care package not filled with goodies, but the trash that he forgot to take out when he was at home. He's freshman Connor Cox. He joins me next. His mom will be with him, too, on the phone with us after this. Don't go away.
I'm sorry, but my letter keeps coming back.
Welcome back. We've got this really interesting story for you. A college freshman, he thought he was opening yet another really nice care package from his mother. The freshman Connor Cox gets them every semester from his mom. But when he opened one of them recently, instead of candy and snacks, he got the trash that he forgot to take out, and included things like tissues, soda cans, candy wrappers. This story's hilarious. Connor tweeted a photo of it. It's since gone viral. He said in his tweet, "I thought my mom was sending me a care package, but instead she sent me a box of trash I was supposed to take out." Now, this is hilarious. Connor Cox joins me now. His mom, Terry, joins me via phone. Hey, Connor, did you know that what was going on at first when you opened the box? What did you do?
I was definitely surprised. Right when I opened it up, I showed my roommate, and he was definitely surprised because we were both expecting some snacks. And I called my mom immediately, and we shared a laugh about it, but it was definitely interesting, definitely weird.
Connor, I think your sister responded on Twitter saying it was actually the trash that you left on the floor at home, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's bring in your mom, Terry. Terry, this is hysterical. Terry, what gave you the idea to do this, Terry?
Just in general, I guess, anger, frustration. When I went up and opened the door of his room, I see
dryer sheets and gusher wrappers, and I'm like, how can I teach this young man a lesson that eventually his wife will appreciate as well? And he did have a box laying on his floor. He also had a Walmart bag, and I thought, I'm going to fill this Walmart bag, and I'm filling this box, and it's going to him at college.
Okay, so Terry, it sounds like you've got a close relationship with Connor that, you know, it looks like he leaves a trail of dirty dishes and trash in his path, and he assumes that you're going to pick it up. It's really funny that you mailed it to him, right?
Yes, and he knows I don't pick up after him. Eventually, I think, you know, he accepts the responsibility and does clean up after himself. It was just a request, please clean your room before you leave for school, and return it to the same order that you found it.
So, Connor, it sounds like you and your mom are really close friends in a way, right? And did you learn a lesson? Did you learn a lesson here, Connor?
Yeah, I did, but I'm also thinking about getting her back some way. I haven't really thought about it yet, but I definitely learned a lesson.
Okay, Terry, just got a heads up. He's going to get you back. But, Terry, so have you played any other pranks like this with your other children, Terry?
I have. It's funny that you say that. We do play pranks at Christmas. We do gag gifts and general mail and whatnot back and forth to college. I asked Connor the other day, I said, when's the last time I played a joke on you in addition to this? And he said, well, you threw toilet paper rolls at me because I forgot to put the toilet paper back on the toilet paper holder. I mean, so this is typical of our family.
It's hilarious. Connor, you know, your tweet went viral. I mean, is this the first time one of your tweets went viral?
I've had my Twitter for a long time, and I've had a couple retweets and favorites here and there, but this is the first time it's been completely viral. I've been out there a little bit, but nothing like this.
Hysterical. Terry, how do your other children compare to Connor when it comes to taking out the trash?
They're all about the same. They're all learning to do their own thing.
All right. I think you may have started a trend, garbage care packages. Terry and Connor, thank you so much. Really appreciate that story. Thanks again. The president's first address to Congress is this Tuesday, and Fox Business will bring you coverage of that. We've got the details next. President Trump's first address to Congress takes place this Tuesday. Now make sure to watch it right here on Fox Business. Special coverage starts with Lou Dobbs at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, that's it for us. Thank you for having us in your homes. Making Money with Charles Payne is next.